Good morning and welcome to the Thursday edition of the Good Morning Africa. It's Thursday, the 11th of March 2021. Once again, wherever you are, we are very much happy to be back and, of course, to bring you another very interesting and informative edition of the Good Morning Africa right here on Africa TV and wherever you are. Once again, thank you for joining us. And this morning, we are going to talk about some very interesting matters, like I said, and of course, including which is going to be the COVID-19 vaccines, which has been launched by the president yesterday at the State House. We will, of course, going to talk about. We're also going to talk about the draft constitution matters. As you know, the talks are still ongoing. We will also deliberate widely on the ongoing talks. Apparently, there are rumors that are going on, but whatever, we will get to that later on in the program. Of course, the news review, as always, as ever, will also come in the program later on as well with Mr. Mandy. And of course, having said that, we would just quickly say thank you very much again for coming on. su ko defee mbokk yi ñu ngi leen di nuyuwaat beneen yoon ñu waat mbégte dellusiwaat tey ci suba si la comme ni ñu koy defee saa su ne bu waxtu bi jotee ñu ñëw digtal leen li nga xamante ne mooy suñuy xibaar waaye tamit ñu yaatal waxtaan bu baax baax ci ponk yi nga xamante ne jàpp nañ ne ponk yu am solo la ci biir réew mi fi ngeen mënta nekk nag ci biir réew mi ba ci biti réew ñu ngi leen di ziar bu baax di leen jaajëfal tey ci jotaay bi dana ci bokk li ñoo waxtaanee mooy vaccination mooy ñàkk bi nga xamante ne long ci nañ ko ci biir réew mi njiiti réew mi démb jël na bosam ak yenn ci kilifa yi ci nguur gi nañ dellusiwaat ci loolu ci kanam tuuti leneen liñ ci toftal draft constitution bi coow li bari na ci lool loolu tamit nañ ko ci boole dana am ñu ci waxal ci waxtaan bi fan la toll ak yu mel noonu incha allah ci kanam tuuti loolu tamit nañ ci yagsi su ko defee ñu dugg ci biir programme bi. Like I said, we started with matters of the COVID-19 vaccination because President Adama Barrow has on Wednesday received his first jab of the COVID-19 vaccine. It was shipped into the country through the COVAX initiative last week, while cabinet ministers alongside diplomats also received doses of the vaccines following the president's declaration of the launch of the national COVID-19 vaccination program at the State House in Banjul. And Daisy has more details of that in this report.
The Gambia has joined other African countries that have received and rolled out the COVID-19 vaccines under the COVAX facility. The 36,000 COVID-19 vaccine doses arrived in the Gambia on March 2nd to help in the fight against the deadly virus. The vaccination rollout set to target frontline workers, the elderly and other vulnerable set of groups. President Barrow urges the cooperation of all Gambians towards the vaccination process, saying that the vaccine is safe and everyone should step up in the global fight.
It has taken its toll on virtually everyone, emotionally, socially, economically, or otherwise. It is a relief, therefore, that suitable vaccines have been discovered, tested and approved by reliable experts. I am sure all of us wish that the vaccines were discovered earlier to save more lives.
WHO country representative Dr. Desta Chirune says this is the first time countries have come together to fight a global pandemic. Dr. Desta says more vaccines are expected to be donated from COVAX facility.
Has so far delivered more than 11.6 million vaccine doses to 17 African countries, and more are yet to come.
The Health Minister, Dr. Ahmad Lamin Samate, says the WHO and its partners made the successful arrival of the vaccines into the Gambia after the country submitted the necessary documents.
The COVAX facility will provide vaccines for 20% of our population. This allocation will be able to vaccinate all persons aged 41 years and above, including the priority groups. This sums up to over 480,000 people. The Gambia has received the first shipment of COVAX COVID-19 vaccines. This amounted to 36,000 doses, which will be able to cater for 18,000 individuals. This was expedited following the submission of the required documentation. Within a very short period, the COVAX vaccines were available for delivery to the country.
COVAX is working for equitable distribution of COVID-19 vaccines and ensure the safety of the vaccines. Since the development of the COVID-19 vaccines across the world, many countries have started mass vaccination to curb the spread of the virus. The arrival of the vaccines into the Gambia gives a great hope as it will help in combating the virus. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Daisy.
All right, Daisy said they are reporting. And finally, after the long wait, the COVID-19 vaccination has been launched in the country. Since the COVID-19 vaccinations or vaccines arrive in the Gambia, there has been speculation around town as to when or how soon the vaccination will start. But finally, it has been launched by the president. He has took his first jab alongside other senior government officials and diplomats also in the country, and that's, you know, in a way have now paved the way for many other Gambians, including the frontline health workers and the elderly, also to benefit from the vaccines. But also people with critical health complications are also going to be considered among the people prioritized for the vaccinations. But again, joining me to discuss more on this vaccination program is Abdoulaye Mendy, who of course he was at the State House yesterday during the launch of the vaccination program by the president. Su ko defee Mr Mendy gannaaw bu ñu la nuyoo am mbégte bu baax pour ñu waxtaanee li nga xamante ne mooy affaire vaccination bi ñàkk bi door nañ ko ci réew mi lan la mën a jàpp démb ci xew-xew yi nga xamante ne xewoon na ci State House gannaaw bu ñu la nuyoo.
jërëjëf Amadou gannaaw guñ la fayee tam ci li nga laajte nag am na solo lool li mooy njëlbeeni yoon vaccination bi depuis bu mu ñëwee ci biir réew mi ñu ko siiwal wala di ko doon waajal pour gis ne askan gi jàppale nañ leen aar leen ci doomu jàngoro ji te itam comme niñ ko dee séentoo rek lu nekk muy lu bees bu amee ci biir réew te it mu doon lu nguur gi dooleel dina dee baax ñi nga xam ne ñoom ñooy kilifa yi ñu jiitu ci ndax askan gi mën a topp ci seeni tànk loolu bokk na ci li gënoon a tax sax démb mbir mi ñu defee ko ci State House mooy makkaanu njiitu réew mi te it di wane tam ne moom njiitu réew mi ci boppam péngu nañ ko loolu dina gën a dalal xelu askan gi rawatina ñi nga xam ne ñu ngi laam-laame ci lii di mbiru péngu yooyu ndax lu dagan la pour jël ko wala ndax lu wér la pour jël ko démb gis nañ imam ratib bu Banjul bi sax moom ci ay ñaanam ma andi na fa ay kàddu yi nga xam ne wax na ko ci wàllu diine gi ne lii mbir la mi nga xam ne mu ngi cee ñaax askan gi yépp pour ñu topp tànk yi nga xam ne yooyu la kilifa yi digle pour ñu péngu ci pour aar suñ bopp ci lii di doomu jàngoro ji ndax nee na diine ci boppam sax nee na nit boo feebaree saytu da nga war a faju te lii nag luy fànk feebar ak faj feebar yëpp benn la ci wàllum feebar kon nag kuy sàkku wérgu yaram ku ne rawatina ci guddi yuñ toll nii dina am solo lool pour borom mun a nangu ne lii lu dëggu la te it war nañ koo def leneen tam Amadou lu ci nekk mooy réere wuñ mbir ne depuis bu coronavirus bi amee ci biir àddina bi borom xam-xam yi ñu ngee gestu ci àddina bi yëpp di seet naka lañ génnee ay garab yu koy aar wala garab bu koy faj waaye lii wane na tam ne réew yi Gambia bokk na ci ay réew yi nga xam ne tam suñu kilifa yi ngànk wàllu wér-gu-yaram bi du garab bu ne la ñuy jël wala du lu génn rek ñu mën koo jël foog ñu saytu ko seetaat ko bu baax a baax gis ne du indi benn loraange ci biir askan gi laata ñu koy nangul kon lii di vaccination bi muy vaccine bi nii jaar na ci process yooyu yëpp bañ gis ne wér na wóor na pour askan gi mën koo njëriñoo moo tax ñu daal di nangu pour askan gi mën koo njëriñoo ci biir réew mi.
loolu am na solo bu baax a baax léegi gannaaw bi nga xamante ne wax nga ko saytu nañ ko ba xel dal na ci li nga xamante ne mooy nit ñi mun nañ ko jëfandikoo démb ñu gis président Barrow moom mu ñekk ñëw ñàkku ci kanam yi mun naa wax ne réew mi because télé banque fa woon ak ñu bëri tamit ministre bi vice président bi ak gars yi waaye ndal lii mun naa dalal xel yi parce que coow bi tamit bëri woon na ci Gambien su bëri am na ñuy laam-laamee ne ndax uur na pour ñu jël li nga nga xamante ne mooy vaccine bi am na ñu si am ñaaw njortu am na ñi nga xamante sax gëmuñ ne Covid am na nday yu mel noonu kilifay dem bi wax nañ ko pour ñaax nit ñi dalal tamit xel yi wax ne lii óor na pour ku ne mun na koo jël.
xam nga Amadou li ñu war a understand mooy du Covid-19 moo di indil askan gi ay question ci mbiru vaccination ci boppam dañ ko fekk ñun mi nga xam ne ñun ñooy ndaw ci ay jamono balaa Covid-19 day am waaye vaccination bu nekk nag tam yu mel nii dañ ko ci dee séntu mooy xam nga maa xam ak maa man yi ñoo bari ci àddina bi te tam maa xam maa man yooyu ci liñ dee sukkandiku rek ci wax mooy seeni xalaatu bopp duñ la mun a wax tey jii ne lii moo tax ma ne la lii wérut bu fekkee nit nee na la lii wérut wala soo on waaye boo gisee ñu indi njiitu réew mi ci boppam loolu mu ngi laa wan ne ki nga xam ne moom mooy njiitu réew mi te nguur gi digle pour ñu def ko bu ci jiitoo di ko def kon war naa dalal xelu askan gi ne lii wóor na pour nit ki def ko parce que tey bu du dara lii bu wóorutoon Ministry of Health bi nga xam ne moom mooy advice nguur gi ci lu jëm ci wàllu wér-gu-yaram du doon advice nguur gi pour mu nangu ko waxantuma la sax ba président bi di ko jël.
waaw waaye xam nga tamit loolu am na waaye donte ne tamit loolu yëpp mun naa nekk waaye ba léegi da ngay of course mun ngaa nangu ne am na ñi nga xamante ne moom seen xel du dal ci yëf yi te tamit du fii rek la njëkkee ba yeneen réew yu bari dégg nañ ko ndax tamit am na yeneen borom xam-xam yi nga xamante ne génn wax ci li nga xamante ne mooy ci vaccine si di ci wax na ñuy wax ne lii óorut nuñ ko defaree dafa gaaw ak yu mel noonu même pas Sénégal fi nga xamante ne moo ñu jege ñoom sax bu vaccine si yegsee seen dëkk bi coow li bari woon na lool am na ñu bari dañ génn public li wax ne ñun duñ ko jël suñ famille du ko jël so yu mel noonu tamit ci réew mi bu mu yegsee tamit génn nañ wax ak nit ñi waaye gis nañ am na ñi nga xam ne ñu taxaw ñu wax ne ñoom duñ ko jël te ñi leen jege duñ ko jël soo léegi damay wax ne ndax kilifa yi nag démba sooraale leen noonu seen kàddu yi pour ñu gën a ñaax nit ñi gën a dalal xel yi wane ne lii donte ne am na ñu ñaaw njortu ne sax donte ne Covid amut waaye nañ ko jël parce que lu wóor la te tamit.
gis nga mooy li ma doon wax ba dugal ci imam ratib bu Banjul loolu ci fànn diine ji laa doon bugg a dugg tuuti rek pour wax mooy tey ñun mi toog fii di ne jullit leen ana ku nekk di dund ci jamono ji ku fekkee yonent bi amul yëpp ci ay dégg la te buñ déggee dañ topp duy ñàkk nag dina am ñuy diingat ak ñuy weddi waaye li ma ci mun a wax rek mooy comme ni ma la ko waxee vaccine bu dul bu Covid bii sax lu mu mënti doon vaccine u polio am na ñi nga xam ne ba tey jii nii du nangu seeni doom yi jël ko wala dañ ci dee am xel ñaar ci lu jëm ci loolu te polio depuis ca jamono loolu mu ngi am ci biir réew mi te ñu ngi gis ne vaccine boobu mu ngi continuer di am balaa vaccine u Covid bii nii am na benn vaccine bi nekk di dem bi nga xam ne ci school si ñu ngi koy def foofu lu uute ak Covid am na ñi nga xam ne ñu ngi koy jël di ko di wax leneen lu dëppoo wut ak loolu waaw mu ngi noonu Amadou liñ mun a jàppa ci lii mooy tey jii nii gis nga ku lay wax rek ne vaccine bi wóorut lii ak lii borom na la laaj borom na la wax ci lan la sukkandikoo ba wóoral paracétamol muy faj bopp bu métti
acca mu ngi noonu comme liñ ci mën a jàpp rek ci kàddu yi mu wax ne ne kilifa yi wax nañ ko démba wóor na ci li nga xamante ne pour nuñ ko mun a jëlee ci vaccine bi ci réew mi pour ñu tëj rek ndax waxtu amul te tamit dañ war a wax ci yeneen yan kàddu nga mun a tëjee parce que tamit shortly after loolu ministre bi defoon nañ seen press conference wane ne fu mu nekk ni dañuy yaatal ñàkk bi fu ne ci réew mi ñi nga xamante ñoo ko yelloogum ñu jox leen ko amaana nañ yegg si loolu léegi waaye bëgg nañ tamit si sa kaddu bu mujj rek ci yëf yi ak lan ngay ñaax Gambien si ñuy seetaan tamit yow li nga gis ci State House dem ba sa xel dal na.
waaw suma xel dal na ne vaccine bi wóor na pour nit ñi man koo jël parce que bu wóorutoon du doon agsi ba fii waxantuma la sax ñu koy jëfandikoo parce que boo fàttalikoo bu coronavirus amee rek am na ñu bari ñi nga xam ne ñu ngi doon laam-laamee ay mbir ci lu jëm ci feebar bi ci boppam ndax gis nañ Madagascar sax ñoom amoon na jamono biñ demoon ba génnee garab ne bii day faj coronavirus and so on am na ay réew yu dem ba jot ci garab bi Gambia ci boppam jotoon na ci consignment ci garab boobu waaye foog ñu gestu ko mooy li ma wax foog ñu gestu ko biñ ko gestuwaat ko ci leen gis ne garab bi mënut a faj lii loolu tax na ba nanguwuñ pour ci biir réew mi garab bi dugg si fii nii te garab boobu nu mu tuddaat lim isi ci askanu loraange gim isi ci askanu Madagascar ñëpp gis nañ ko so mu ngi mel ni lii tam yaakaar naa ne nguur gi duñ tëb rek jël garab dugal ko fii nii te Amadou fi maa bugg a daanelee mooy lenn bu dut Covid-19 tey ku feebar ku ne fu moo dem kër docteur tey ne damaa dem gisi docteur parce que lan nga da nga wóolu ne docteur bi lii mooy liggéeyam te xam-xam màcc na ci côté boobu kooku nag tey bu ñëwatee mu ne la lii am na te lii ak lii ngay def pour aar ko boo ko weddiyee mu ngi mel ni tam la nga doon gëm-gëmlu wala la nga doon ne dëgg la ci docteur boobu moom du lu dëggu parce que nit ki mënoo joxe bopp nga rocc ci làmmiñ faj ñëpp xam nañ ne fajkat yi ñoom ñooy faj tey boo demee ci kër docteur bu la bindalee médication yi nga war a jënd paracétamol bokk ci yow dooy question médication yooyu noonu fan lañ ko defaree ak naka lañ ko defaree waaye di nga dem nga jëndi ko lu tax docteur boobu di same docteur boobu mu ne la Covid am na lii mooy aar Covid nga bugg a question loolu te yow mënuloo indi beneen proof pour counter moom lu mu laa wax lu dul ay dégg naa wala ay spéculation
su ma la déggee daal mooy yëf yi gom-gom la acca mu ngi noonu
gom-gom la
jërëjëf ñu gërëm la bu baax ci kaddu yu am solo yooyu yëf yi gom-gom la rek ku ne ni nga ko gomee ca xam naa ne ci noonu ngay sooboo ci yëf yi waaye daal comme ni nga ko waxee démb njiiti réew mi moom dal na ci ak ay vice président bi ak yeneen jëwriñ yi ci nguur gi ak ay kilifa yu bëri loolu mu nekk lu am solo du ñàkk ci yeneen jotaay incha allah nañ ci dellusiwaat ci loolu waaye nañ desandi ci wàllum health because shortly after bu ñu defee launch bi the Minister of Health went on to also jàkkaarloo ak media bi pour wax ci doxalin bi ak mel noonu we'll move on but stay with health matters because the Ministry of Health starts the rolling of the COVID-19 vaccination campaign that would be taking place across the country. Now, the move followed the arrival of 36,000 vaccine doses in the country on the 2nd of March, and 37 syringes were also given to the ministry from the World Health Organization COVAX initiative. And again, for more details of that, here is Ndesese.
As many people cast doubt over the efficacy and effectiveness of the COVID-19 vaccine, the Health Ministry has on Wednesday held a press conference to raise awareness and understanding ahead of the vaccination. The vaccination in the Gambia will target the priority groups and those aged 40 and above. The Health Minister, Dr. Ahmad Lamin Samate, urges the media to help the ministry to sensitize people on the vaccination.
Most of what the people know about COVID-19 and most of what they are going to know about the vaccination is going to be through yourselves. That is why your role in the success of this vaccination campaign is very, very, very crucial. So we appeal to all of you to send the message, to encourage people to get the facts so that we can report the facts. And we also, encourage the people for the uptake of these vaccines to be high, because the vaccines are protective.
WHO country representative Dr. Desta Tirune says this is historic as it is the first time the world ever produced an effective vaccine in less than a year. He encourages the public to take the vaccine.
Here is now for the public to take up the vaccines and make sure that these vaccines are also put to good use. Not everybody will get the vaccine because we don't have enough of them.
As the President and Cabinet Ministers receive their first jab of the vaccine, the UNICEF country representative Jonathan Lewis hailed the move as great. He acknowledges the effort the Gambia government takes in the fight against the pandemic.
I got a call from a regional director on the Day of Independence on the 18th of February. And she called the Gambia country office representative as well as 4 other UNICEF representatives in the region. And the question was, are you ready to receive your vaccines? Because our mechanism that we use to arrange for the packaging, the logistics, the supply, the delivery, actually getting the vaccines onto the cargo hold of airplanes, we're ready to go with millions and millions of doses. So the question at that point is the Gambia ready to receive its first shipment of 36,000 vaccines? And I said, well, we're going to have to look into this because this is moving perhaps a little faster than we expected.
The Gambia is expecting more vaccines to be rolled out, and the current vaccination will continue towards the end of the year. The West African nations are the first countries to receive the product as part of the COVAX initiative. COVAX hopes to deliver more than 2 million doses of the vaccines in 2021. As the demand for the vaccines will exceed the supply, there are growing concerns that poorer countries might be left behind in the vaccination program. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Desise.
All right, this is they are reporting, and thank you very much for that report on the COVID-19 vaccine and the vaccination campaign which had been launched yesterday by the president. And immediately after the launch of the vaccination, the Minister of Health went straight and faced the media. And of course, he has talked on so many things, but more importantly on the essential part that the media should play to make sure that the vaccination would, eventually, be launched and implemented in this country, or roll out, if you like, as expected. So he of course, knows very well the important role the media can play in this, and he appealed to the media to make sure the public will be adequately informed, but also, encouraged, if you like, to take the vaccines, because they are for protection and they would play a very important role in our bid or quest to defeat the pandemic in the country. So there you go. And like I said, probably in some other time we'll come back to the COVID-19 vaccines and talk more on that. But of course, I was going to say this, we have a surprise guest for you this morning. I did not mention about him because I wanted it to be surprise. That's why at this juncture I would introduce our guest to you, and we are going to talk about security matters now in the country. And I'm glad to say, joining me on the studio already is the police PRO, Superintendent Lamin Jai, is here with me, and of course we're gonna talk on a range of issues relating to security matters in the country. PRO, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, and thanks for having me in the program today.
All right, thank you for coming. Of course, it's a pleasure to have you. And just quickly to get onto the discussions, like I said, we're going to have open discussions here this morning. But first, on the COVID-19 vaccines and the vaccination, of course, I know you are not a health expert, but then the police may have a role to play on this one. What did you make of the vaccination program in the country? It has been launched, and should I ask the role that the police or the security officers can play in helping the public to and also work closely with the Minister of Health to make sure that a smooth and a proper vaccination program is done?
Very well, thank you so much. If you look at the COVID-19, since the beginning of the pandemic, the Gambia Police Force especially has been very much engaged with the Ministry of Health in terms of support when it comes to the enforcement of health regulations, and also ensuring that the public also adhere to these regulations so as to get the people prevent themselves from contracting the virus and also further spreading it. And so the police and the security in general have been very much involved in the whole process of the COVID. So therefore, if a vaccine has been discovered and it is available now, that is very very much welcome. And so therefore, the Gambia Police Force, as we have been doing before, supporting the ministry in all the enforcement and all that, we will continue also to provide security and also provide operational support to the Ministry of Health to ensure that the vaccine is rolled out to every nooks and cranny of the country, so that all the people who definitely needs this vaccine, and even if it comes to the prioritization as well, we will support them to ensure that this work is done accordingly and everybody is able to get vaccinated as well.
All right, very well. Now, it's also good to say at this juncture, having the police PRO here, it doesn't mean that people are going to be forced to take the vaccines, Piero? Because, I mean, people might say the police is here and probably the government would want to force people to take the vaccine. I think that's very important. There's no law that is saying that people would, are mandatory to take the vaccines. I think it's very good we clear that as quickly as...
In fact, I just want to say this. If you look at, even at the time, when we were enforcing the COVID regulations, these are laws at the time, they were emergency regulations. But the manner and way in which we enforced them was such that we were enforcing them bearing in mind the human rights of people, so that we don't violate people, we don't put people into any coercion. And we had tried, even though some people have said, oh, the police are supposed to arrest people, they're supposed to do this, but we couldn't do that because of the fact that we are conscious of the human rights of the people, especially when it comes to health situation. Now, it's important that you highlighted the fact that we supporting the Ministry of Health does not necessarily mean we are going out with a force to get people to get vaccinated. No, but we will support them with the necessary security to create the environment for them so that they can interact with the people and be able to get the vaccination done within a very peaceful and harmonious environment.
All right, and I know the police also are ready to take the vaccines when the right time comes.
Of course, because if you look at the priority list, it's also part of the frontline workers, and the police has always been a part of the frontline workers, and so we will be readily available when it comes to vaccination.
All right, we just wanted to start a discussion with COVID because, of course, he is here, and we are talking about the vaccination campaign which was launched yesterday by the president. Away from the COVID matters, of course, Piero, let's talk about the recent developments in the country as far as security is concerned. And there's been frequent of mysterious killing in different parts of the country. Tell us about these things. What has been happening?
Very well. Like you said, these incidents, we've been having reports across the country, and so it's mysterious, like you have said, and the Gambia Police Force is deeply concerned about these situations, and we have been able to respond to some of these incidents, and so far we've opened investigation into the already reported cases. But not only that too, because it is a very serious concern for the Gambia Police Force, we've also come up with contingency plans and also proactive measures to work with local communities within these areas and see to it that we put up structures and strategies that will allow us to be able to deter and also prevent from such.
Yeah, but talking about investigation, Piero, many times people will tell you that if the police are investigating, oftentimes there would not be, how would I say this, the outcome probably would not be known to the public, and they're always hide or kept otherwise, or people would not know what have been your findings. What would you say to this?
Very well. I think what usually happens is this. I'm not saying in all cases, but sometimes when we begin investigations, let's say, for example, if a situation occurs, at that point in time, it's breaking news or somehow most people are aware of the situation. When we go into the investigation, by the time we, because investigations sometimes take a bit of time sometimes, but by the time we conclude, what next we do is to put the matter before the court. And so when we put the situation before the court, it is already now out of the hands of the police. It is within the court setup. Probably if we have reporters that attend court cases and so on, they should be able to update the public on the progress of those situations while the sittings are happening in the courts, because the courts too, before verdict is given, also takes some period of time. So, but we want to encourage reporters as well, and so a lot of reporters are doing this. They are going to the courts and reporting what is happening in the courts. So if people are following those reports, they will see to it that the cases that have been mentioned some time ago are the same cases that are coming in the court, and they are being reported there as well. So we are not hiding any investigation report so far, as long as the matter happened and it was definitely published and it was known, and investigations are done. Once they are completed, when we get the evidence, we put the matter before the court and the trial goes on.
All right. Now, another thing is the frequent occurrence of killings and all whatnot in this country, if you like, Mr. Piero. Now, of course, at the last time, or the last that we had was in Kudan, and of course we understand where the the death occurred, and also, of course, of recent understanding, Nyambai forest as well. At some point, people may ask, what is the police doing? What role are you doing to prevent the Gambian people? Do you have the adequate capacity to make sure that you give a befitting security for the Gambian people? You know, if these things are frequently happening, do you think there will be a trust on the police that you are, you know, giving out your responsibilities as expected?
Very well. I want us to look at it from a societal perspective.
Yes.
We must understand that everything that happens within our society, we are all collectively responsible to see to it that we do everything possible to ensure that those things, especially if they are crime or crime-related issues, don't occur again. Now, let's look at it this way. If these situations, like mysterious as you call them, some of these things we need to look at what is happening within our societies so that we are able to understand the phenomena properly. And recently, like you have said, these things have started occurring. It happens in Kudang, it happens in Nyambai forest. Let's look at these things and not group them as one situation, but look at it from case-by-case perspective. What we have seen at Nyambai Forest, not conclusive though, but so far the preliminary investigations that we have done, it has shown that there is a person who frequents the forest, but he's not well. He's unwell because this is some of the information we have gathered. This is, like I said, it's not yet conclusive, but the reports that, the interviews that we've conducted so far have said that the person is not well. Keeps frequenting that area of the forest, and probably we usually also will have cases of sudden death, individuals who've been sick or somehow this thing occurs from time to time. So we may not conclusively say that person has been murdered and had been put at the forest or some situations like that. But however, the police is still investigating to ascertain all facts relating to that circumstance at Nyambai Forest. Now, the matter at Kudang also, we look at it as to what have happened, and that's why investigations are open into that situation too, so that at the end of the day...
At what level are you? Because it's about 2 weeks or so now, or 3 weeks if I'm right. In terms of the investigations, at what level are you?
Very well. From the time the situation occurred, we have known that the police have been at the scene and they have sent the body for autopsy that is at the EF hospital. And after that, the reports will be sent back to the police and the investigators will proceed, and they will gather also some facts and evidences within the communities. But importantly too, we want to let people understand that people who live within these communities, somehow, some way, people are aware of what is happening. And if you are aware of what is happening concerning this situation, it is good that you come out also and get the police to understand this situation by reporting. Even if it means you want to stay anonymous, the police will be able to do that to get you undercover, give them the proper information, and they can use to work with to be able to uncover the people who are behind this situation if it is some criminal situation. No. So definitely it's also important that the communities work with the police in terms of giving information and in terms of bringing out what these mysteries are like within the communities. Because if we say it is mysterious, yet there are some people who are still aware of this situation.
Yeah, that's very important. And now, what would you say, or what would be your response to people that may think the police does not have the required, let's say, facilities to respond on time when you are needed? You know, sometimes there will be a call, but maybe it would take time before you respond as expected. Does the police have what it takes, you know, to respond in such, you know, when such cases occurred anywhere in the country?
Well, the Gambia Police Force, like any other institution, is grappling with resource constraints and capacity constraints, which obviously, if we have an augment or a boost, we will definitely appreciate that, because modern day policing calls for a lot of logistics and resources. And so therefore, we, like any other institution, will definitely want resource boost as well. But importantly, we are able to deal with situations. This is not the first of this kind, or this is not the only situation. We've responded to a more even complex situation. So therefore, we wouldn't be able to say, okay, we cannot respond to this situation because of X, Y, Z. But we will always respond, and we will do our our utmost best to ensure that crime is investigated.
Yeah, and I know, just the final one, Mr. Piaro, of course, I know you would have loved to widen the discussion, but just for now, another, you talk about complex issue, another hot thing in town is the, we have seen dead bodies also exhumed at the Backhouse Cemetery. What can you tell us about that? What is the final update with regards to the situation? People are really so crazy about what is happening.
Mysterious again, like you have said before. Even if you look at the situation, also it's happening under some mysterious circumstances. But so far, when we got to the scene at Backhouse Cemetery, we've discovered that the shrub, that's the cloth that the body was wrapped in, was removed and taken away. And so we don't know what is the motive behind the people who did that and why would they do that. But we are working on uncovering that. And so this is why we are working with the local community within the Backhouse Cemetery. And in fact, we are putting surveillance there to see to it that whatever time they come over there to do this, we'll be able to get
But
them.
I only hope the police are not taking this lightly.
We are not taking this lightly. It is very concerning to the Gambia Police Force, and that is why I am telling you, we're not only stopping at just the investigation, but we're putting up proactive strategies to work with the community, put up more surveillance and more strategies to ensure that people who are doing this in any way, they are being arrested and apprehended.
All right. Superintendent Lamin Jai is the spokesman for the Gambia Police Force, and thank you very much for coming. It was indeed a great pleasure to have you with us this morning. And of course, we would hopefully have him some other time so we can widen the discussion. We would have talked about how about on traffic, how about some other parts or issues that also concerns you that are watching. But for now, we say thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Surely we will expand.
Inshallah. Thank you. Thank you very much, Superintendent Lamin Jai. He is the spokesman of the Gambia Police Force. And away from that now, we will move on and talk on the draft constitution now. Like I said earlier on, because the final stages of the discussions on the new draft constitution is underway. And this is the third visit of the Nigerian former President Goodluck Jonathan in the country. Now, political party leaders and representatives have been in discussions since on Wednesday at the Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara Conference Center to pave ways for the draft. Now, earlier this week, the Nigerian statement have told reporters after a closed-door meeting with President Barrow at State House that he is optimistic that the constitution with or the consultations with the political parties, which is a sequel to the Abuja meeting, would yield positive results. To widen the discussion on this, I'm joined on the line by our reporter Bint Jallo, who have been closely monitoring the ongoing talks. And also from South Africa is Gambia-born activist Jagan Gray Johnson. But first, to you, Binta, thank you very much for joining us. And you are right now at the Sir Dawda Kairaba International Conference Center. Now, tell us, what did you know, or can you update us on the latest situation on the ground?
In Bijilo at the Sir Dawda Kairaba Conference Hall, where a meeting has been taking place since yesterday between political party heads, party representatives, and Goodluck Jonathan, the ex-president of Nigeria. Now, we are expecting them anytime from now back here at this hall right behind me to continue with.
All right. I know, Binta, we'll come back to you in a moment. Apparently, the line is not that much somehow good, but we will try to get her back to tell us the situation on the ground as far as the ongoing talks is concerned. She is right now at the International Center, of course, Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara International Center, I should say, where the meeting is going. That has been the meeting is led by the former Nigerian president, Goodluck Jonathan, and he is meeting with political party leaders and other stakeholders to find a way out to revive the already dead or coma draft constitution. And So we will see at what stage are they at this moment, and we will try to get back Binta back quickly, and also we would be going to South Africa to talk to Jegan also on the same issue or same matter as far as the ongoing talks are concerned. And yeah, so this is the third visit of for Goodluck Jonathan in the country. He has been here for 2 occasions. No agreements were made or were met, and of course the political party leaders also traveled all the way to Abuja, Nigeria, where again there could not be an agreement as to how the draft would be revived. So that being the case, he is again back for the 3rd time. That is Goodluck Jonathan to lead the discussions here, maybe for the final time, hopefully, in the Gambia. You cannot tell. So Binta is back again on the line. Binta, you were telling us about the situation on the ground. I'll just allow you to continue where you stopped.
Yes, Amadou, I can say since yesterday they've been having a dialogue and the draft constitution between members.
All right. Again, I have to apologize for that. The line still not somehow good, but still, again, we would try to get it back as quickly as possible, because we would want to know since yesterday to now what they have discussed, at what level, at what stage are they? Are there any likely are there any possibility for an agreement this time around? We would just have to wait and see. We want to hear from our reporter who has been closely following the developments. He has been monitoring on the ongoing talks, like it said. And of course, also, we should be going to South Africa and talk to Jegan, who is also very much concerned and has been keenly following the developments back home. And of course, on the ongoing negotiations and talk on the draft. So this is something that many Gambians have interest of. And let's go back again to the Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara International Conference Center. Binta, again, tell us about the latest update on the ground as far as the talks are concerned, ongoing negotiations are concerned.
Ongoing negotiations are concerned.
Like I said, we're still here and we're expecting this political party to come back to the situation right behind the scenes. Continue to be there, to be responsible to that thing. Since the discussion yesterday, we have not
all right. I'm sorry again. We're not getting how well, but let's head to South Africa now. And Jegan is on the line. Jegan, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Well, what did you make of the ongoing negotiations? I mean, this is the 3rd time or the 3rd meeting in Banjul since the negotiations began to revive the draft constitution.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Wonderful. Yeah, I mean, as the saying usually goes, third time lucky. But again, was threatened from the get-go by virtue of the fact that, one, it was International Idea and Goodluck Jonathan, whom were both invited by the Gambia government. So no blame should go to them if this thing fails, because they were invited. They did not impose themselves into this particular process. That's one. Secondly, obviously, it was Gambia government through the Barrow administration, of which President Barrow actually leads, that clearly torpedoed the constitutional review process, and by virtue of the fact that denied, the Gambian citizenry going to a referendum when they halted the process in its tracks in the National Assembly. Now, this is a bit weird because, again, there's a contradiction that since they were the ones that torpedoed it, for whatever reason, when they started resisting the calls for a third republic through a referendum, through this working backwards through establishment of the CRC, which ultimately then gave a very strong and very widely consultative document as a draft constitution. They had come out with a number of objections that they had. Now, the interesting thing is those objections haven't changed. They're still, those issues that they brought up are still in the draft constitution. All of a sudden, all of that has fallen away, and we are now left with one protracted issue, which is the issue of the term limits. So the question then becomes, again, we've had a string of contradictions. And for me, certainly from where I'm sitting, we are seeing an administration that is not very clear in its thoughts. It is not very clear or very credible in its actions, and its reliability to do the right thing is questioned in this whole process.
All right. Now, of course, like I said, this is the third meeting in Banjul. But let me ask you, I mean, the last talks that were held in Nigeria, of course, sparked, dissenting views among Gambians. Now, do you think, of course, the discussions or, that were held in a foreign land with regards to the constitutions was necessary? What's your take on this?
Well, it's clearly contradictory towards the Barrow administration's initial position, by virtue of the fact that, if you recall, when those debates were being held in the National Assembly, I think it went on for about 3 days. When they went to the second reading and the voting had started prematurely, the process was aborted. That's when they basically voted to throw this entire baby with the bathwater out. If you recalled, there was a statement by the European Union, the British government, the UK government, and the American government. It was a very short statement encouraging the lawmakers to basically let this process unfold, ultimately further encouraging them that the people should have a say over this particular process. And this was met with vitriolic and severe rebuke from the side of the Barrow administration, who accused these three governments of trying to meddle into their internal affairs. That's interesting that a couple of months down the line, we are now seeing them doing precisely what they accused these Western powers of doing, by going outside of our jurisdictions to get a negotiator that is not a Gambian. Yes, he's an African, that is not a Gambian, to come in and inherently try and deliberate over issues that are vested both in law, in practice, in policy, in the legislature, which is a purely internal matter. So again, it smacks of hypocrisy that this is happening. Again, this is also the reason as to why the chances of success over these processes are not very high at all. Where they should have started, they haven't done that. Eventually, this is going to land back squarely in the hands of the legislature, which is the National Assembly. And I think those negotiations are purely internal, it's purely domestic, hinges on political will, and it also hinges on goodwill to be able to deliver up to the expectations of the Gambian people.
All right, I will come baback to you in a moment, Jegan. Stay on the line. Let's try to bring back our reporter, Binta Jallo, again. She's at the Sadauda Kairaba Jawar International Center. Binta, again, tell us about the situation. What's happening right now on the ground where you are?
Amadou, right now, as we speak, we are still expecting the political party heads and also Goodluck Jonathan to come back right to this building and continue with their dialogue that they started yesterday. Amadou, yesterday they had a meeting here, right here in this conference center, but they couldn't reach a concession. And now we are expecting them back here, like I said, later this afternoon.
All right. Like you said, of course, they were there yesterday. Do you know at what stage are the discussions at this moment? Is there any possibility for an agreement? There are rumors that, the parties are still, they could not agree. Do you know anything of that?
Yes, Amadou, I can tell you that yesterday they couldn't reach an agreement due to certain clauses that are in the draft, and there are parties that are not ready to negotiate on those ones. And we are hoping, hopefully, before the end of the day, they might come to an agreement or they might not come to an agreement.
All right, so is it a make or break day for the Gambia or for the draft constitution? If there is any possibility of it being revived, or probably we could sense for another opportunity. What can you tell us about that?
Well, Amadou, as I said, we are here to bring the event as it unfolds, and we are just waiting for them to come back, and then we will try to talk to them and see how the negotiation is actually going on and whether they have reached any agreement at all before the end of the day, like I said. But for now, truth be told, I don't think there's any hope as of now as we speak, unless there's any changes in the evening.
All right, Binta Jallow speaking to us live from the Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara International Conference, and thank you very much. And back to you, Jegan. Now, of course, you heard from our report, and you also have said the chances are very slim of reviving this draft. Now, do you think the chief negotiator, Jonathan, has what it takes to break the deadlock?
I mean, to be fair to Goodluck Jonathan, as I said, he's been basically given a poison chalice. As I said, because of just the very nature of the exercise. One, we are looking at externalizing a purely internal affair, which is, it's so internal that it's actually couched and vested within the cleavages of legislative processes and procedures. So that makes it very difficult. The second issue, again, is that he doesn't have the luxury of time. Gambians don't have the luxury of time. So whatever has to be done has to be hashed out very, very quickly. And again, this is also highly political, it's down to politics, it's down to numbers. And all it has to take is one particular party just to drag their feet and refuse to basically budge. But let me say this here. I think it is important for me to emphasize that all of this was unnecessary. I think if we had shown some good faith, strong political will and determination to do what was expected and let this process go through the right channels and bear itself out and eventually, obviously, go to a referendum, and let the people decide, who wouldn't have come to this.
Yes, Jagan, if I can come in here, talking about the political will, which you just mentioned. Now, would it be a failure or a blow to the Barra's government if we should go on to the 2021 elections with the 1997 constitution without having a new one?
It's already a blow to the Barrow administration because it is just one more set of broken promises and failed reform attempts that they have made in the last 4 years. At this point in time, they're trying to basically put a bandage over a cancerous node. And as a result, as I said, the time is against us. They're not going to succeed in doing that. I think, again, we need to be realistic as Gambians. I think our politicians also need to be true to themselves and to the citizens and say that, look, one, the horse has bolted. They have torpedoed this particular document. They don't have the time to tinker with it. And even if they did, it's not definite that it will pass. And then secondly, we don't even have the time to get to a referendum. We know that. Why? Because we've precisely got less than 9 months to go before we go to the polls. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we are stuck with the 1997 Constitution. So what they need to do is they can tweak those where they can, either one to avoid, the first past the post, whereby we know now with over 16 parties coming on board, no one is going to get more than 1/3 of the vote. It's not even imaginable, whether it's UDP, NPP, whoever. They're not going to be able to get a mandate of a 50+ to be able to rule. So we must force that. The second issue, obviously, for me, what we need to focus on now, and that's the important bit, is to ensure that we go through a process that is free, fair, and credible elections.
Okay.
We still don't know, and this has to very quickly, this has to be done in 2 phases. The first phase is the institutional building. We still are not sure whether the current chairperson of the IEC is legitimately occupying that position. That has to be ascertained, verified, confirmed, so we can move forward. Okay. Secondly, I understand now that the vacancy that was left by Mr. Malisala has now been filled. But I mean, again, the government needs to come out very clearly and communicate that so we know that we are moving forward with that. On the process side, I think it is absolutely imperative that the IEC now gets in touch with all the stakeholders, starting with the Inter-Party Committee, to basically draft a credible roadmap, a realistic roadmap as to when the registration is going to start, when the external census for the diaspora voting is going to start, when the registration of the diaspora voting is going to start, and then when all the other processes of civic education, etc., around the elections are going to kick off. We have less than 9 months to get this thing right. This is going to be the most contentious political processes in Gambia's history since independence. We cannot afford to be dilly-dallying, pretending to negotiate something that is non-negotiable, and then forgetting that there are more important and urgent matters on the table that we must confront as a country.
All right. Just lastly, Jegan, now, of course, do you again perceive a way out on the current situations we are in? If not, what could you advise the authorities going ahead?
As I said, I mean, I think this is exactly what I was saying just earlier. The realistic issue is that the draft constitution is gone. We need to bring that back, but this is not the right time to bring it back because we don't have the time. That's just the reality. And also, the curtain is closing. I can understand if we had 2 years down the line, maybe. We don't. We got 9 months to basically go to elections, to organize elections, first of all, and then go to the elections. We haven't started to do any of those things. Yet we are pretending that once we negotiate this term limits retroactive issue and whatever, that will basically solve all our problems. It won't. And because we are neglecting the bigger issues that we need to focus on, and we're not doing that.
All right. Jegan Johnson, of course, a Gambian-born activist speaking to us live from South Africa. Thank you very much for your time. And Binta Jallo, our very own reporter, was also standing by at the International Sadora Karaba International Conference Center. Both of you, thank you very much for your time. And with that, you know, we will now, of course, do away from the international, should I say, the draft constitution talks. You heard from both of them there. And of course, that finally brings us to the end of this edition. That is the Thursday's edition of the Good Morning Africa. We want to thank you so very much for the pleasure of your company. And I hope you have indeed been adequately informed on all the matters that we have discussed this morning, and we will be back tomorrow for the week's final edition of the same program. But stick around, don't go away. The TRRC proceedings was about to start, and we will link you up to the commission's hearing at its Dunes Hotel in Senegambia. su ko defee mbokk yi ñu ngi leen di gërëm bu baax ci ni ngeen àndee nag ñun buñ dooree jotaay bi suba ba léegi fii la ñoo yemande ak yéen ci wàllum draft bi dégg ngeen lu ci gaay wax waxtaan yaa ngi continuer ba léegi waaye bu leen sori TRRC bi léegi tey mu door incha allah lu ci munta ruusee rek da ngeen ko mun a seetaan fii ci Africa TV ci kanam ñu dellusiwaat ci yeneen jotaay incha allah ci kër bi jërë ngeen jëfati ci safo bi waaye ci kóolute bi suba ak jàmm wi dellu ci édition bu mujj ci week bi jërë ngeen jëfati.
Gambia may be the smallest country in Africa, but it will host the second largest gathering of world leaders in 2020.